All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going through all 32 teams in the NFL and essentially breaking down what they have done so far in the offseason and through free agency. And also, I'm going to be giving them a grade as well. And I'm currently recording this on Friday night, so I'm just going to be going through all the things that have been done so far at this time and moment. But things are subjected to change as well, of course. But yeah, so that's basically what I'm going to do in this video. If you guys do enjoy, go ahead and leave a like. I would greatly appreciate that. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop right into this. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and get started here with the Arizona Cardinals and go through what has been retained, signed, and relinquished here. Starting off with the retained, they have re signed Baron Browning to a 2 year, $15 million contract. I think that's a pretty big deal. They traded for him during the trade deadline, so they get to retain him for another 2 years. They also retained Evan Brown as well to a 2 year and $11.5 million contract. So that is very important news for them and for their offensive line. They also re-signed Zay Jones, who was suspended last year for a few games. So this is essentially just a 1 year prove it deal for him. And probably the biggest acquisition for them this free agency is acquiring Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles. He signs a 4 year, $76.4 million contract, which is very big money for him. Yeah, as an Eagles fan, I think he was really, really a good edge rusher throughout his time for Philadelphia. And yeah, so he signs a 4 year, $76 million contract, roughly $19 million per year, and $41 million total guaranteed. I'm curious if what this makes him in terms of edge rushers here, because um that currently, let's see here, how do I sort this? Contracts, active contracts. Yeah, I want to see what he ranks in terms of edge rushers here throughout the market. All right, I finally found him, and he currently ranks 11th in terms of edge rusher contracts, which is pretty solid. I mean, I think that's about right in terms of where he has been produced so far. He's only 27 years old as well, so he's still in his prime. They get him for 4 years. I think this is a pretty solid contract. And if you watch my free agency predictions, you all know that I had Josh Sweat as a perfect fit for the Arizona Cardinals. I think his connection with Jonathan Gannon just made a lot of sense here. So, yeah, I really like this signing for the Arizona Cardinals. But other than that, they signed Dalvin Tomlinson to a 2 year, $30 million contract, which is pretty significant money for him. I think Dalvin Tomlinson is a very serviceable, rotating defensive tackle in the NFL. But they also signed Jacoby Brissett as well to back up Kyler Murray. And they signed Akeem Davis Gaither as well to a 2 year, $11 million contract. But other than that, yeah, nothing much has really happened for them besides that big Josh Sweat signing. I really like it though. I think he's a very nice fit for that Arizona Cardinals defense. So I'm just going to give the Arizona Cardinals a B here. But moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, and they retained Jake Matthews, which is pretty significant in my opinion, to a 2 year, $45 million extension. They also re signed Mike Hughes, who had a pretty solid year last year, to a 3 year, $18 million deal as well. But other than that, they re signed a lot of depth pieces here. And they signed Leonard Floyd to a 1 year, $10 million contract, as well as Divine Diablo from the Raiders to a 2 year, $14 million contract. So they really haven't acquired that much players through free agency from other teams. But the re signing of Jake Matthews and Mike Hughes is really big. Other than that, I'm not really a big fan of what they've done so far. They haven't really done much, in my opinion. I would have liked them to address the defense, primarily the defensive line, more. Leonard Floyd, he's average at best, in my opinion. So I don't know how much that would help them. I'm just going to give the Atlanta Falcons here a C. I'm going to give them a C here. Yeah, we have the Baltimore Ravens up next, and they haven't done much at all this offseason so far. The biggest move, though, in my opinion, is signing Ronnie Stanley to a 3 year contract extension worth $60 million. I think that was a very, very, very important piece and probably their top priority this offseason was to get him extended at the left tackle position. So he's there for another 3 years, which is great news for their offensive line. But other than that, they re-signed Patrick Ricard to a 1 year deal. They also signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 1 year, $6 million deal. And the Ravens just have a very big obsession of signing like old veteran wide receivers slash almost washed receivers in the NFL. But yeah, DeAndre Hopkins would fit in perfectly with that description here. I mean, he's still a serviceable wide receiver in my opinion, but I don't think he's the same, D Hop that he's known to be. But other than that, those are the three biggest moves that they've done so far. I don't think they've really done much. I mean, keeping Ronnie Stanley is very, very important. So I would give the Baltimore Ravens here a C. Buffalo Bills here up next, and the biggest extension was Josh Allen to a 6-year, $330 million contract. And I'm pretty sure that makes him the highest paid quarterback in the league, second highest behind Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, so he is, well, second highest contract here for $330 million, but he has a $55 million average salary. So, very big extension for him. I mean, it's really the top priority to extend your franchise quarterback here. So, very, very big. They also re signed Greg Rousseau to a 4-year, $80 million deal as well. He's one of the best younger edge rushers in the league. And I'm also curious to where he ranks amongst the edge rushers here. If it's sorted by this. Yeah, so he's top 10 in money here. Just a little bit above Josh Sweat. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. He's only 24 years old. He signs to a 4-year deal. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think that's about on par where he should be getting paid. So I really like that re-signing there. They also re-signed Khalil Shakir to a 4-year, $60 million deal as well. And I think Khalil Shakir has been one of the more underrated wide receivers in this league. I think he's really, really good in my opinion. And he meshes well with Josh Allen. So he stays there for another 4 years with Josh Allen. And another big re-signing for them as well is Terrell Bernard, who had a really great year last season as well, to a 4-year, $50 million contract. I'm curious as well as where he ranks among linebackers here. He's 19th in overall paid. He's only 25 years old. I mean, that's pretty solid money in my opinion. Oh wait, this ranks by. Oh, I need to do inside linebackers. Inside linebackers here. Okay, so he's top. Wow, so he's 7th overall, 6th technically. Nick Bolton, Jamie Sherwood are tied 6th here, but yeah, $42 million for 4 years, average $10 million per year. That makes a lot of sense. He's one of the younger and better linebackers in this league. So I really like that re-signing as well. In terms of who they acquired via free agency, Josh Palmer signed here to a 3-year, $36 million deal. I'm not really in love with this, but I don't mind this either. I mean, they do need wide receiver help. Amari Cooper trade did not pan out for them. Yeah, Josh Palmer isn't, an elite wide receiver by any means, but he's a very serviceable wide receiver, and he's still relatively young as well. So 3 years, $36 million, $12 million per year. I don't mind that contract as well. But they also signed Joey Bosa to a 1-year, $13 million contract, which is also a very big signing. He was recently released by the Chargers, so he gets a 1-year deal with the Buffalo Bills to pair up with Gregory Rousseau. I don't mind this signing at all. There's really not that much risk to this deal here. And Joey Bosa, he's not the same as he once was, but I still think he's a very solid edge rusher in this league if he can stay healthy. Larry Ogunjobi here, who was recently released by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signs here with the Buffalo Bills. But overall, I really like the re-signings they have here. I like the acquisitions from Joey Bosa and Josh Palmer. I would give the Buffalo Bills here a B. I really like their re-signings and just retaining some of their young stars on this team here. We got the Carolina Panthers up next, and they re-signed Jaycee Horn to a 4-year, $100 million contract. That's a big money for Jaycee Horn here. In terms of where he ranks amongst cornerbacks, he is 2nd overall. Wow, and paid money. Wow, Marshawn Lattimore is 3rd. Damn. Yeah, that's a bit overpay, but Jaycee Horn is 25 years old, and he's getting paid $125 million per year, $100 million total contract. That's a lot of money. Still, he's one of the better younger cornerbacks in this league. So, I mean, it's big money, but the cap space is going up, and I really don't mind it at all. Other than that, there's a lot of depth pieces here that they've re-signed. Michael Jackson to a 2-year, $14.5 million contract as well. Tommy Tremble to a 2-year, $10.5 million contract, as well as Andy Dalton to a 2-year, $8 million contract. This is the most baffling signing to me, in my opinion, or one of the most, is signing Trishawn Wharton to a 3-year, $54 million contract. I mean, that's pretty big money, and I don't think that Tershawn Wharton, he's not bad by any means, but I don't think he is, one of those upper echelon uh, defensive tackles, let alone getting paid in the top 20 amongst defensive tackles here. He's 26 years old. He signs a 3-year contract, $45 million. Yeah, so he's in the range of DeForest Buckner, Javon Kinlaw, which we will get into a little bit later. Grady Jarrett, Kenny Clark. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this signing. I don't think he is the same level in terms of playmaking and compared to DeForest Buckner, Jonathan Allen, or Kenny Clark here. So I think that is an overpay, and I am not a big fan of that. But they also acquired Trevon Moehrig from the Las Vegas Raiders to a 3-year, $51 million contract. This is also a very, very big signing. I'm pretty sure he's top 5 in safety money here. Um, Top 10 here. So he is 25 years old. He gets $17 million per year from the Carolina Panthers. I really don't mind it. I really don't mind it at all. He's one of the younger and more upcoming safeties. He's been pretty solid for the Las Vegas Raiders. And yeah, the Carolina Panthers just really needed to bolster their secondary through this offseason. So yeah, I really like that deal here. Other than that, they signed Patrick Jones to a 2-year, $20 million contract, as well as Rico Dotto from the Dallas Cowboys to a 1-year, $6.5 million contract. I'm assuming that he will be able to compete for the RB2 role behind Chuba Hubbard there. Yeah, but other than that, I think retaining JC Horn is very important. I don't really like the Trishawn Wharton signing here, but I do like the Trevon Moehrig signing. So I will be giving the Carolina Panthers here a C. All right, we have the Chicago Bears here, and first and foremost, they traded for Jonah Jackson via the Rams, as well as Joe Thuney via the Chiefs, and I really like these acquisitions. Yeah, so the offensive line was very pitiful for the Chicago Bears last offseason, and just being able to acquire these players that can really bolster the interior offensive line just makes a lot of sense. So I really like these acquisitions that they traded for here. They haven't really retained anyone noticeable here, really just a lot of depth pieces. But in terms of signing, they signed Dayo Adeyembo to a 3-year, $48 million contract. That's a pretty big signing. I'm not too sure if I like that contract, in my opinion. I think he's a solid edge rusher. He's getting top 15 money. I think he's a solid edge rusher, but I think he would really benefit from being a rotational defensive end. I'm not too sure if he can really be an all 3 down rusher for the Chicago Bears, but we shall see. I mean, pairing him up with Montez Sweat will be really nice for the defensive line. Also, they signed Grady Jarrett to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract as well, who was recently released by the Atlanta Falcons. I really like this move as well. Not only are they bolstering their interior offensive line, but they're also bolstering their defensive interior line as well by this signing. So, on top of that, they also signed Drew Dahlman to a 3-year, $42 million deal, who I had as a perfect fit for the Chicago Bears. Yeah, so they get 3 whole new players for their interior offensive line that will really help them bolster that position. And I really, really like these signings, especially the Drew Dahlman signing from the Atlanta Falcons here. Yeah, but other than that, there's a lot of more depth pieces that they signed here. I really like what they've done so far through free agency and through what they acquired via trades. I'm going to be giving the Chicago Bears here an A. Yeah, I think they deserve an A here for what they've done here so far. We got the Cincinnati Bengals here up next, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase extensions potentially, but hopefully they both get extended to fair money here. Other than that, they re-signed BJ Hill to a 3-year, $33 million contract, as well as Mike Gesicki to a 3-year, $25.5 million contract. And yeah, other than that, really don't retain that much besides a lot of depth pieces. They retained Joseph Asai to a 1-year, $7 million contract. And then in terms of signings, they really haven't done much here either. They signed Tadaro Clayton to a 2-year, $15.5 million contract, as well as Samaje Perine. He comes back to the Cincinnati Bengals to a 2-year, $4 million contract. Yeah, so the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not sure how to grade them yet because I really want to see what happens to the T. Higgins situation as well as Jamar Chase contract extension. But other than that, I'm going to have to give the Cincinnati Bengals here a D. They haven't really done much so far. Their re-signings haven't really been noticeable yet. Who they've acquired through free agency through other teams hasn't been that great, honestly. So I'm gonna give the Cincinnati Bengals a D here so far. We got the Cleveland Browns up next, and they acquired Kenny Pickett from the Eagles via trade. And yeah, I don't really hate this move at all. I think Kenny Pickett could potentially compete for that QB1 position for the Cleveland Browns. Um, and he still has, I'm pretty sure, another year left on his contract as well. So he's still on a rookie deal. So you're not paying him a whole lot as well. And the biggest news is they retained Myles Garrett to a 4-year, $160 million contract, which is super, super big money. He's getting $40 million per year, which is a lot of money. Deservedly so, though. So after all those trade rumors and the requesting and him requesting a trade, he stays with Cleveland for 4 more years for a lot of money. Other than that, they really haven't signed much many players besides Malik Collins to a 2-year, $20 million contract and Cornelius Lucas to a 2-year, $10 million contract as well. Um, I'm kind of split on the Myles Garrett situation. I think they could have gotten a lot of acquisition for Myles Garrett, which could have helped their team as a whole. That Sean Watson whole situation and the contract is one of the worst in probably NFL history. Myles Garrett is probably one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, so it's a no-brainer to keep him, in my opinion. Other than that, they really haven't done much. I'm not really a big fan of their signings through free agency. I'm just going to give the Cleveland Browns here a C. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, and they traded for Kaiir Elam as well as Kenneth Murray from the Bills and Titans. Two players that are very low risk, high reward kind of players. They really haven't been performing well as of recently, but Cowboys are just hoping that one of them pans out here. The biggest re-signing for them though is retaining Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million contract. I think keeping him was very important, especially for their defensive line. They also re-signed Cavante Turpin to a 3-year, $18 million contract, as well as Marquez Bell to a 3-year, $12 million deal as well. So those are the three biggest re-signings for them. In terms of acquisitions via free agency, they signed Solomon Thomas to a 2-year, $8 million contract. They get Javonte Williams in for a 1-year, $3 million deal, as well as Miles Sanders to a 1-year deal. Those two guys will potentially be competing for the RB1 spot, potentially being committee. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to address the running back position in the draft as well. But on top of that, they also re signed Dante Fowler from the Commanders to a 1-year, $8 million contract. So, again, in terms of free agency and acquisitions via other teams, they really haven't acquired anyone of notice. These are pretty much a lot of people that are very low risk, high reward kind of players. So they're hoping that one of them pans out. I think retaining Osa Odigizua is very important for them, though. I'm not really liking who they've acquired through free agency, but I do like them retaining Osa. I'm gonna give the Dallas Cowboys here a C. I'm gonna give them a C here. Yeah. But let's just move on to the Denver Broncos here. They retained DJ Jones to a 3-year, $39 million contract. I think that's a big resigning for them. It says Evan Ingram is retained here, but it's a signing. But he was recently released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He signed for a 2-year, $23 million contract. They finally addressed the tight end position. They really needed to address it this offseason, whether it's free agency or the draft. And this kind of fit in perfectly for them. I think Evan Ingram will fit in very nicely with Sean Payton's offense. And I think it'll give Bo Nix another weapon on this offense as well. Other than that, they re-signed Jared Stidham to a 2-year contract. They signed Talanoa Hufanga to a 3-year, $45 million contract. Talanoa Hufanga is also one of the younger safeties that is up and coming. He gets top 12 money at the safety position, which is kind of a steal in my opinion. I think Talanoa Hufanga is very, very good in my opinion. Other than that, one of the best signings, in my opinion, is Drake Greenlaw, who signs to a 3-year, $35 million contract. I think in terms of injury history, Dre Greenlaw really just didn't get paid that much, but I think he's a really, really great linebacker. He's getting paid top 10 money. In my opinion, I think he's better than Patrick Queen, in my opinion, and Bobby Okereke. So he's getting paid a little bit under them, but it's reasonable because of his injury history. But I really like that signing for them. Other than that, they signed Matt Pert to a 2 year, $70 million contract, as well as signed Trent Sherfield as well. I really like what they've done for the Denver Broncos. That Evan Ingram signing is really, really important, as well as the Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga signing as well. Also, retaining DJ Jones is very vital for their defense. So I'm going to give the Denver Broncos here an A so far for what they've done for the offseason here. Detroit Lions here, and they retained Derek Barnes to a 3 year, $25.5 million contract. They also retained Levi Onwuzurike to a 1 year, $5.5 million deal, as well as Marcus Davenport to a 1 year deal as well. Other than that, their biggest signing is probably DJ Reed, who will be replacing Carlton Davis. He signs a 3 year, $48 million contract with the Detroit Lions. He's still relatively young, only 28 years old, and he is a really, really solid corner, especially in the run game. He can not only pass coverage, but he can also support the run as well. So, nearly not much has done via free agency signings, but I really like the retaining of Derek Barnes and Levi and the signing of DJ Reed replacing Carlton Davis. So I'm going to give the Detroit Lions here a B so far. Green Bay Packers, and they have not done much, if at all, yet. They retained Brandon McManus and Isaiah McDuffie. Other than that, they signed Aaron Banks to a 4 year, $77 million contract, which is a lot of money in my opinion. Aaron Banks is a good guard in my opinion, but I'm not sure about that contract. I mean, he's getting paid top 10 behind Quentin Nelson in front of Samuel Cosme, who I think, in my opinion, Samuel Cosme is better. I also think Quinn Marinez is better than Aaron Banks as well. So yeah, this is a really, really big signing. He's 27, so he's still relatively young. I'm not too sure how to feel about that in my opinion, but the Packers really had a need to address the offensive line, especially in the interior offensive line. So the signing does make sense, but I'm not too sure about the money there. They also signed Nate Hobbins from the Las Vegas Raiders to a 4 year, $48 million contract. He will be replacing Eric Stokes and potentially Jair Alexander, as his tenure with the Packers is questionable right now. So yeah, that signing makes a lot of sense. Other than that, they really haven't done much. I'm not really a big fan of this contract signing here for Aaron Banks, just financial wise. But I do like the Nate Hobbs signing. I'm going to give the Green Bay Packers a C here so far. Next up, we have the Houston Texans, and they have traded for Christian Kirks from the Jaguars. I think that is a very low risk, high reward trade for them. I'm pretty sure they only gave up a 7th round pick. I think Christian Kirk is still a really good receiver in this league. So getting him a fresh spot and pairing him up with CJ Stroud would be really nice. They also acquire CJ Gardner Johnson from the Eagles. And as an Eagles fan, I'm very baffled by this trade. I'm not too sure how to feel. I really, really love CJ Gardner Johnson and just the mentality and energy he brings to the secondary, but he's still a really good and really young safety. So this is only a win for the Houston Texans, in my opinion. Other than that, they also acquire Ed Ingram from the Vikings. It says they retained Harrison Smith here. Man, I gotta stop using CBS Sports, bro. This is in the wrong spot. This is supposed to be the Vikings. Yeah, but other than that, they really don't retain that many noticeable players. I do like who they traded for though. In terms of signings, they also really haven't had that much noticeable signings. Maybe Sheldon Rankins and Nick Neiman. But other than that, I do like who they traded for. They acquired Christian Kirk and CJ Gardner Johnson. I think those are really two strong acquisitions for them. I'm going to give the Houston Texans here a B. We have the Indianapolis Colts here up next, and they retain Ashton Dolan to a 2 year, $8.5 million contract. Other than that, they have a lot of depth pieces here, but except for Braden Smith. In terms of who they signed, I really like the Cameron Bynum signing. He signed to a 4 year, $60 million contract. I had him as a potential perfect free agent fit for the Indianapolis Colts. They really needed to address the secondary, specifically the safety position. But on top of that, they also acquired Charvarius Ward from the 49ers to a 3-year, $60 million deal as well. So I think that's a very big signing. He obviously had a very down year for very tragic reasons last season, but I still think that Ward is a very serviceable cornerback in this league, and hopefully he can bounce back here with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm curious to where they rank in terms of their respective positions. But Cameron Bynum is getting paid top 7 safety money in the league. So that's pretty significant. In terms of Charvarius Ward here, he's getting paid top 15 money, which is pretty fair in my opinion. I think he is a top 15 quarterback. I think Charvarius Ward is a top 15 slash top 20 cornerback in this league. So I really don't mind those signings as well. They also acquired Daniel Jones to a 1-year, $14 million deal as well. I think Daniel Jones will have a chance to compete with Anthony Richards for that QB1 spot. So I don't mind that signing as well. Other than that, they also signed Khalil Herbert from the Chicago Bears as well. So yeah, I do like the signings, but I'm not really in love with them. They did lose a lot of players, specifically on their offensive line. But I'm gonna give the Indianapolis Colts here a C. Um, yeah, moving on. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars here up next with their new resume, and they have signed Patrick McCarry as well as Jordan Lewis to a 3-year, $30 million deal. They also signed Eric Murray to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. And they also signed Robert Hainsey to a 3-year, $21 million contract as well. And they also signed De'Ami Brown to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I mean, other than that, nothing really noticeable. I'm not really a big fan of what they've done so far through free agency slash the offseason. I mean, they released a bunch of players on their team. Yeah, and I'm not liking who they acquired at all. So I'm going to be giving the Jacksonville Jaguars here a D. Yeah, I'm going to give them a D here. I'm not really a big fan of what they've done. Kansas City Chiefs up next. They franchise tag Trey Smith in hopes of getting him a long-term extension. They also extended Nick Bolton to a 3-year, $45 million contract as well. So retaining Nick Bolton is pretty significant. He's one of the better young linebackers in this league. They also re-signed Hollywood Brown to a 1-year, $11 million contract. I think that's pretty significant. And they're keeping Kareem Hunt as well to a 1-year deal. Other than that, the pretty two significant signings via free agency is Christian Fulton to a 2-year, $50 million deal, as well as Jalen Moore to a 2-year, $30 million contract as well. So other than that, I mean, retaining Trey Smith is very important, as well as Nick Bolton. They get to do that. They don't really have much cap to be spending a lot via free agency. So I'm not really in love with who they acquire via free agency, but I really do like the re-signing of Nick Bolton and the potential re-signing of Trey Smith. So I'm going to give the Kansas City Chiefs here a B. We have the Las Vegas Raiders here, and they traded for Geno Smith from the Seahawks, so he gets to reunite with Pete Carroll there. I think that was probably the biggest move for them. It's very surprising too. I did not expect it at all. But yeah, so with this trade, I'm really thinking that they hold the 6th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I'm either thinking that A, they don't like any quarterback with that pick, or B, they don't think the quarterback they want will make it to them with the 6th overall pick. Or C, they can still take a quarterback in the first or second round in this draft, and he can sit behind Geno Smith, which I think would be a really smart decision. But yeah, Derek Carr, Geno Smith. I think he's a good quarterback in the league. I'm not saying he's one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in this league, but he definitely raises the floor for this offense. They also retain Max Crosby to a 3-year, $106 million extension. So he stays with Las Vegas for 3 more years. I think that's very, very vital for them. One of the best edge rushers in this league as well. They also retain Adam Butler to a 3-year contract and Malcolm Kuntz to a 1-year deal as well. So they're really retaining a lot of their defensive line here. I really like Malcolm Kuntz. I thought he would have been a nice acquisition to other teams, but he essentially gets a 1-year prove-it deal with the Las Vegas Raiders here once again. In terms of signings, they signed Jeremy Chin from the Washington Commanders to a 2-year, $16 million deal. I think he's a very solid safety in this league. They also signed Alex Kappa to a 2-year, $11 million contract as well. But yeah, I'm not too sure how to feel about the Geno Smith trade. It definitely raises the floor for this offense, but at some point you're gonna have to find a younger quarterback to be the franchise quarterback for this team. I really, really love the extension for Max Crosby though. So yeah, I'm gonna give the Las Vegas Raiders here a C. Los Angeles Chargers here up next, and they re-sign Elijah Moulton to a 3-year, $19 million contract. They also re-signed Khalil Mack to a 1-year, $18 million deal as well, which I think is very vital for them, especially since they lost Joey Bosa. I'm pretty sure they're going to address the defensive line here, specifically in the draft, in the either first or second round. Other than that, in terms of signings, they signed Dante Jackson to a 2-year, $13 million deal, which I don't mind the contract. He's definitely a starting cornerback in this league, but he's definitely an up and down cornerback as well. They also bring back Mike Williams to a 1-year, $6 million deal, so he's back in LA. I really, really don't mind that signing at all. He's a very low risk, high reward player. Injuries have definitely plagued him throughout his career, but if he can stay healthy, I think he can be a very serviceable wide receiver, and he gets to reunite with Justin Herbert as well. They also signed Najee Harris to a 1-year, $5.25 million contract. I really, really like the signing. I think Najee Harris is a really good runner, specifically when he runs north and south. But yeah, he gets to potentially be the 3-down back for them with them losing J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. But yeah, I really, really like them retaining Khalil Mack and the Najee Harris signing as well. And as of this time, it's not on this page yet, but as of now, they have just recently signed Mekhi Becton to a 2-year contract as well. So I really, really like that deal specifically because I am a Philadelphia Eagles fan. He was really good for us. He definitely improved a lot under Jeff Stoutland. And with them already having Rashawn Slater and Joe out at the tackle positions, he can just slide in nicely in the interior offensive line and be really beneficial for them. So I really like that signing. So I'm going to give the Los Angeles Chargers here a B. I really like the Khalil Mack re-signing. I like the acquisition from Mike Williams and Najee Harris, as well as Mekhi Becton. So yeah, Los Angeles Chargers here get a B from me. Moving on, though, we have the Los Angeles Rams, and Matthew Stafford is retained here on a restructured contract, as well as they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo as well. I really like the signing of Davante Adams. He signs a 2-year, $46 million contract. He replaces Cooper Kupp basically, and at this point at the careers, I think Davante Adams is the better wide receiver. He still performs really well, and he's still one of the top wide receivers in this league. So I think he will do a lot and great things with Matthew Stafford. But they also signed Poona Ford from the Los Angeles Chargers to a 3-year, $30 million contract. I really like that signing as well. I think Poona Ford has been one of the more underrated defensive tackles in the league. And yeah, I'm a really big fan of that signing. But yeah, other than that, I mean, they lose Cooper Kupp here, but they keep Matthew Stafford. They acquire Davante Adams and Poona Ford. I really, really like that. So I'm going to give the Los Angeles Rams here a B. All right, we have the Miami Dolphins here up next. And yeah, so they retained Tyrell Dodson to a 2-year, $9 million contract. Other than that, they retain a lot of depth pieces here. The biggest signing for them was James Daniel from the Pittsburgh Steelers to a 3-year, $24 million contract. I think this was very important for them because they were losing both of their starting guards via free agency. And James Daniel is a very solid guard in this league. They also acquired Nick Westbrook-Ikhine from the Titans to a 2-year, $7 million deal. So he can compete for the wide receiver 3 spot on this Dolphins team. But they also signed Zach Wilson to back up Tua Tagovailoa to a 1-year, $6 million contract. But yeah, other than that, they really haven't done much. I think re-signing James Daniel was very important, as well as Liam Eichenberg. But yeah, I'm not really a big fan of their other signings as a whole. I'm going to give the Miami Dolphins here a D. Yeah, they really haven't improved all that much. I do like the James Daniels signing, though. They get to re-sign Liam Eichenberg. And I'm pretty big fan of Zach Wilson signing as well. But I'm going to give them a D here. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and I really, really like what they've done here so far. They signed Byron Murphy to a 3-year, $66 million contract extension. So they retain one of the best younger cornerbacks in this league. They also re signed Aaron Jones to a 2-year, $20 million contract as well. So he stays in Minnesota. They also signed Will Fries from the Colts to a 5-year, $90 million contract, which is really, really, really big. Um, I really like this signing. Will Fries is one of the best guards in the league, and he gets paid deservedly so as a top 3 guard in this league. But yeah, they definitely get better, especially in their interior offensive line with this signing here. Not only that, they also signed Ryan Kelly, center from the Colts, as well to a 2-year, $18 million deal. So they're really bolstering this interior offensive line. And I was very curious of if Ryan Kelly or Garrett Bradbury were going to slide to guard or not. But with the Garrett Bradbury release, I think this just really makes sense now that he'll stay center here, and then Will Fries will hold it down at the guard position. So they're really bolstering their interior offensive line here. Not only that, they are also bolstering their interior defensive line with signing Jonathan Allen to a 3-year, $60 million contract, as well as Javon Hargrave to a 2-year, $30 million contract. So both really solid defensive tackles get to join the Minnesota Vikings. So I really, really love those signings there. On top of that, they signed Isaiah Rodgers to a 2-year, $50 million deal as well from the Philadelphia Eagles. And as an Eagles fan, I thought that Isaiah Rodgers, when he played extremely well. He's really fast, he's really twitchy, and he's very instinctive. So I really, really like that signing. So overall, the Minnesota Vikings have really done a great job of retaining key players and signing free agents that will be impactful for their team. So I will be giving them an A here. Next up, we have the New England Patriots, and the biggest signing for them is definitely Milton Williams, who signs a whopping 4-year, $104 million contract, and that is super big money, specifically at the defensive tackle position. But yeah, it's understandable at the same time though, because I think Milton Williams was one of the most important and impactful players on the Eagles defense. So yeah, Milton Williams here is only 26 years old, and he gets paid in top 7 in terms of defensive end. He's more so a defensive tackle, but he's categorized as a defensive end here to a $104 million deal, $26 million per year. A lot of money. It was rumored that the Panthers were going to sign him before the Patriots swept in and took him off the market. So yeah, I love Milton Williams as an Eagles fan. I really, really think he deserved this money. It's a lot of money, but yeah, we shall see how he plays with New England Patriots. I think he'll do just fine there. On top of that, they signed Carlton Davis to a 3-year, $60 million contract from the Detroit Lions. I really like that signing as well. He's always been a very consistent and good cornerback in this league. And I think he'll pair up very nicely with Christian Gonzalez, of course. But on top of that, they signed Harold Landry from the Tennessee Titans to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract. He has connections with Mike Vrabel, so they reunite there. He had a down season last season, but hopefully he can bring things back here with a change of scenery. On top of that, they signed Robert Spillane to a 3-year, $37 million deal, as well as Morgan Moses to a 3-year, $24 million contract. But all in all, I really like the Milton Williams signing. They get one of the best defensive players in free agency, as well as Carlton Davis. And they addressed the offensive line just a little bit. I really wanted them to really attack the offensive line position heavily this offseason, but we shall see if they address it more or if they address it in the draft. But yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of what they've done in terms of Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, and Morgan Moses. I think I will give the New England Patriots here a B. I really like what they've done here so far. New Orleans Saints here, and they really haven't done much. They retained Chase Young to a 3-year, $51 million contract. And though he hasn't really lived up to, his number 1 overall draft potential, I think he's been a really serviceable defensive end, especially as of recent. But yeah, 3-year, $51 million. That's quite a lot of money. He's still relatively young though, so I don't mind that. They also re-signed Jawan Johnson to a 3-year, $31 million contract as well. And they signed Justin Reed to a 3-year, $37.5 million contract. I don't know if they really needed Justin Reed, but that's pretty big money, specifically at the safety position. But yeah, I'm not really a big fan of what they've done. The New Orleans Saints, they did also trade for Devon Godchow from the Patriots. They had limited cap space to work with though, but I'm not really too sure how important getting a safety, specifically in Justin Reed, is. So yeah, I'm gonna give the New Orleans Saints here a D. Next up is the New York Giants, and they re-signed Darius Slayton to a 3-year, $36 million deal. That's pretty significant money for Darius Slayton, though I think he's been a very consistent, probably the most consistent wide receiver for the New York Giants for quite a while. But they had pretty big signings through free agency, though. They acquired Paulson Adebo from the Saints to a 3-year, $54 million deal. I think Adebo is one of the better younger corners in this league. Unfortunately, he did suffer a season-ending injury last season, but he gets a lot of money here with the New York Giants. On top of that, they signed Javon Holland to a 3-year, $45 million deal. And I'm curious because Javon Holland is getting, yeah, so he's getting top 11 money ish. Yeah, so they let go of Xavier McKinney last year though, and he's getting quite a lot. So I'm curious. I mean, wouldn't you just want to keep Xavier McKinney, who's a little bit better than Javon Holland in my opinion? So it's baffling to me, but yeah, they addressed the secondary here by acquiring both Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, which I don't mind those free agent signings. They also acquired Chauncey Golston and James Hudson. But other than that, I mean, the biggest acquisitions are definitely Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, which definitely bolster their secondary. And they get to retain Darius Slayton as well. I'm going to give the New York Giants here a C. New York Jets, and then they retain Jamien Sherwood, one of the up and coming young linebackers in this league, to a 3-year, $45 million contract. Um, I really like that re-signing. I think he will be a really good linebacker, especially since they just released CJ Mosley as well. On top of that, the biggest signing for them via free agency is definitely Justin Fields from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signs a 2-year, $40 million contract with them, and he will potentially compete for the QB1 spot for the New York Jets. And he gets to pair back again with Garrett Wilson, former teammate from OSU. On top of that, they acquired Brandon Stevens to a 3-year, $36 million contract, as well as Andre Cisco to a 1-year, $10 million contract. They haven't done much via free agency as well as re-signing players. I do like the Justin Fields signings. I think that's a very low risk, high reward kind of player at the quarterback position specifically. But other than that, I mean, they haven't really done much. So I'm going to give the New York Jets here a C. The Super Bowl reigning champion Philadelphia Eagles up next. And as an Eagles fan, I'm not a big fan of what they've been doing here so far. I mean, they've had limited cap space. But yeah, we'll get into that. They trade for Dorian Thompson Robinson in exchange for Kenny Pickett, basically. And he'll be the QB3 here or compete for the QB3 spot with Ian Book. QB2 will definitely be Tanner McKee now. They also trade for Kenyon Green from the Texans, who Kenyon Green has historically been bad since being drafted. But if anyone can change the trajectory of an offensive lineman, that would be Jeff Stoutland. So maybe they see something in Kenyon Green that I haven't seen. But you lose CJ Gardner Johnson as well, which this is a whole mess in my opinion. But the biggest re-signing and probably the biggest top priority for them is re-signing Zach Bond, who was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. He was probably the best linebacker last year, and he signs a 3-year, $51 million extension with the Eagles. So retaining him was top priority, and also they extend Saquon Barkley to a 2-year, $41 million contract, which he definitely deserves. He's the top paid running back in this league. I mean, he probably had one of the best running back seasons ever from a running back. So He deserves that, and I'm really happy that he's on the team for quite a while. But other than that, their signings have been pretty much just a lot of depth players. They signed Harrison Bryant, who will compete with Grant Calcaterra there. They signed Josh Uche. They signed AJ Dillon as well as Adoree Jackson. I'm not really a big fan of any of these signings. They're not really game changing signings. They're just a lot of bodies that you can put throughout the offseason for your team and really hoping that one of them pans out here. But yeah, besides the Zach Bond extension and the Saquon Barkley extension, I'm not a fan at all of what they've done for my Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going to give them a D. I'll give them a D. It would have been an F if not for the Zach Bond extension. So moving on, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they trade for DK Metcalf from the Seahawks and then agree on a 5-year, $150 million contract. Really, really big money for DK Metcalf. I'm really not too sure how to feel about this. I mean, I would have had an idea if they had an answer at the quarterback position. But since they do not have an answer for that position yet, I'm really not too sure how to feel about it. I do like DK Metcalf as a wide receiver. I think he's a good wide receiver. I don't think he's an elite wide receiver, but he's getting paid a lot of money. He's getting top 3 money as a wide receiver here. So that might change my stance on him. He still is in his prime. I mean, he's a freaky athlete and a specimen as a whole. I mean, he's a crazy big dude. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he pairs up with George Pickens because they both have very diva-ish personalities. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if George Pickens is a long-term solution there for the wide receiver position to pair up with DK Metcalf. But yeah, I'm not too sure how to feel about that acquisition there, and it's a lot of money. In terms of free agent signings, they get Darius Slay from the Philadelphia Eagles to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I don't mind that move at all. I still think that Darius Slay is still a competent cornerback, given his age, and he's a very, very team-friendly personality for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Other than that, they signed Mason Rudolph again, who could potentially be their starting quarterback. Probably not though. So he comes back potentially as the QB2. Other than that, they really just get a lot of depth players here in free agency. Yeah, so Pittsburgh Steelers here, I'm not too sure how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about the DK Metcalf trade until I know who has at quarterback. I do like the Darius Slay signing though. I'm just going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers here a D as well. Join my Philadelphia Eagles until you get the quarterback situation situated. You guys get a D here. But we have the San Francisco 49ers up next, and they have basically lost a great amount of players, specifically starting players, and they really haven't acquired that many players to replace them. They re-signed Patrick Taylor and Jordan Mason, and then they signed Luke Farrell to a 3-year, $20 million contract and signed Demarcus Robinson from the Rams to a 2-year, $10 million contract. And Kyle Shanahan finally gets the quarterback he wants. He always wanted, and Mac Jones to a 2-year, $7 million deal. Other than that, has been a very pitiful offseason for the 49ers. Yeah, I'm going to give the 49ers here an F. F, yeah. It's been a pretty bad offseason for them, in my opinion. Seattle Seahawks up next, and they retain Ernest Jones to a 3-year, $33 million contract, as well as Jarran Reed to a 3-year, $25 million contract. Both starting players for the Seattle Seahawks, so pretty vital to retain them. They also, probably the biggest signing in free agency, they signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100 million deal. They get rid of Geno Smith. I didn't see this coming whatsoever. And then they signed Sam Darnold here. And also, it's not in here. They also signed wide receiver Cooper Kupp as well to a 3-year contract here. So they get rid of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and then they acquire Cooper Kupp and Marcus Valdes-Scantling to pair up with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And if Cooper Kupp can stay healthy, I think he can be a very good wide receiver for them and for Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold just basically goes into a worse situation than the Minnesota Vikings, worse O line, a worse wide receiver corps. But yeah, specifically before the Cooper Cup signing, I mean, if it was just Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marcus Valdes-Scantling, I would have been praying for Sam Darnold there. But they get Cooper Cup, which is a pretty good signing for them. But other than that, yeah, they get Cooper Cup. They sign Sam Darnold, probably the top quarterback in free agency. They retain Ernest Jones and Jerron Reed. And then they also signed DeMarcus Lawrence as well to a 3-year, $42 million contract from the Dallas Cowboys. I would have liked to see them address the offensive line a little bit more. They have a lot of holes there. They really need to bolster that position specifically. But yeah, I think the Seattle Seahawks here will get a C from me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers here, and the biggest re-signing probably is Chris Godwin. He resigns there to a 3-year, $66 million deal. So he stays with Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans on this offense, which is very big. They also re-signed Ben Bredeson to a 3-year, $22 million contract, as well as Lavonte David to a 1-year, $10 million deal. And David isn't, the same superstar linebacker as he once was, but I think he's still a very serviceable linebacker, though. So they get him on 1 more year. They also signed Hassan Reddick to a 1-year, $14 million deal as well. And I think Hassan Reddick definitely had a down year with the New York Jets, but I think that has to do with him just holding out. I think he will still be just fine. I think he'll get back to his ways as he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I really like this signing. I think it's a very low risk, high reward kind of signing. And it's just essentially just a prove it deal here for Hassan Reddick. Other than that, yeah, I really like the Chris Godwin re-signing and the Hassan Reddick signing. I like them re-signing Lavonte David as well. So yeah, I'm going to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here a B. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans, and they retained Sebastian Joseph Day to a 1-year, $7.5 million deal, who I think Joseph Day is really just a underrated defensive tackle as well. And probably the most baffling, this is definitely the most baffling signing to me, is signing Dan Moore Jr. to a 4-year, $82 million contract. Like, what are we doing? I mean, he's serviceable, but he's not worth that money, in my opinion. He's not worth that money at all. So he gets top 10 money at the tackle position. He basically gets more money than Lane Johnson. And that's crazy. And Jordan Mailata. So this is really just a baffling signing. I don't think he's worth that money at all. I think he's a serviceable lineman. I don't think he is worth that much though. So other than that, they signed Kevin Zeitler to a 1-year, $9 million contract, as well as Cody Barton to a 3-year, $21 million contract. Other than that, they really haven't done much. I'm not a fan at all what they've done specifically with that Dan Moore Jr. signing. I'm going to give the Tennessee Titans here an F. And last but not least, we have the Washington Commanders here, and they acquired Deebo Samuel from the 49ers. I think Deebo Samuel is still a very serviceable wide receiver, and I think that he will be an upgrade of what they've had at the wide receiver position. So I really like that trade from them. I also like the Laramie Tunsil acquisition as well. I think Tunsil just needed a change of scenery. He's still a very good tackle in this league. And so they addressed that position by acquiring Laramie Tunsil here. They also retained Bobby Wagner to a 1-year, $10 million contract. They signed Marcus Mariota to a 1-year, $8 million deal. And they keep Zach Ertz as well to a $6 million deal worth 1 year. And Zach Ertz was actually a very solid tight end for them last season as well. Other than that, there's a lot of depth positions that they've re-signed. Another baffling signing for me is Javon Kinlaw to a 3-year, $45 million contract. I think Kinlaw, again, is a very serviceable defensive tackle at best, but getting $15 million a year that ranks top 20, I don't think he's worth that in my opinion. So I think that's a bit of an overpay. Other than that, a lot of depth signings here. I'm not really a big fan. I really do like who they traded for in Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil. I do like the Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz re-signing. I do not like the Kindle signing. I think that's a bit of an overpay. I'm just going to give the Washington Commanders here a C. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who's had the best offseason so far? Who's the best free agent signing that you guys think of? Who's the worst free agent signing? Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. But without saying much more, I hope you guys take care. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.